All righty. Hey, everybody. Drew Allen, your Millennial Minister of Truth here. So, today's kind of fun. I've got Phillip Patrick, who's a precious metal specialist. You've heard me talk about our various sponsors, and Birch Gold is a very important one. And, it's one of those sponsors that has relevance in our lives, certainly. And so I thought it'd be interesting, actually, to have Phillip on to talk about gold, because it is an investment that is real, that many of you probably already have. And there are a lot of questions about it, and it's related to, my expertise, which, of course, is the political realm. So, Phillip, I just want to welcome you here.
Thank you for having me. Thanks for having me, Drew.
Well, so, I just want to kick it off by saying, it's kind of a funny thing to me, because gold, of course, has been around for a long time. The Spanish famously tanked their own economy a long time ago when they went and dug up too much of it. But so it's been around. It's a true thing. And yet people seem to have less familiarity with gold, or be a little bit more cautious, I think. I don't know. It's funny. I think that some people think about gold like it's cryptocurrency, when it should be the reverse, in my opinion. But in any case, how does gold, for example, it's a commodity, so you actually have it. It's not like in the ether, it doesn't exist. Right. When I was just looking at some of the forecasts by Goldman Sachs. And, they're expecting it to continue to climb to possibly even 3,000, per troy ounce by end of 2025. So the forecast looks good. I mean, where's gold kind of right now?
Yeah, most predictions are for gold to increase. It's up about, over 30% for 2024. And it is moving at quite a pace. As you mentioned, most predictions are for gold to go over 3,000 next year. And I think it's a reflection of where we are in the state of the economy. It's funny, you said, people not so familiar with gold. And look, I was a banker prior to being at a precious metals company, and gold wasn't something I really looked at in any sort of great volume. And the reason for it, for most of the 20th century, gold could be characterized as a wealth preserver. You looked at something like the S&P, and gold didn't come close. This century, it is an entirely different picture. Entirely different. It's turned on its head. Gold has become a growth asset. And what's interesting is really what changed at the century. It's when we started massively increasing the supply of US dollars around the world. So there is this direct correlation between growth in gold and global supply of currency. Look at what we've done over the last 4 and 8 years, respectively. And I think it tells you why it's growing and where it's heading.
Yeah, I mean, it's continued to grow, to increase in value up and up and up. So, I mean, I think if people look at it that might be more familiar with stock options, for example, you're wanting to ride the market. But, when people that might be more familiar with, like, they're just 401ks, and they can choose, do I want an aggressive investment because I'm young? Do I want something moderate? Do I want something really, really, that might grow at 1% each year, but it's safe? Where does kind of gold rank on that scale?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So gold is considered a safe haven asset, right? And you mentioned cryptocurrency before, and you said, like, it's almost the opposite. I say the same thing, right? You could buy crypto today, triple your money by the end of next week. You're not going to get that with gold, but that works in reverse as well. And gold tends to be that steady eddy play. But like I said, in climates of high inflation, or when the dollar's losing value, when we have recession on the horizon, these climates really drive growth in gold, and it can perform aggressively. The last time we had a stagflationary climate in the US, early 70s to early 80s, housing went down, markets went down for almost a decade. Gold grew tenfold in that climate. So it's a safe haven asset.
Yeah. And people listen to the radio, they hear commercials and things about diversification, and that's exactly what gold is. It's a part of your asset portfolio that is reliable. What is it that let's talk about supply and demand, obviously, and what the foreign governments and nations out there are doing with gold right now, because it's my understanding that they are, in fact, buying up a lot of it at the moment.
Yeah, setting records. And by the way, central banks have been buying gold more than any other asset class, or longer than any other asset class. And they've set records in the last 2.5 years in terms of gold buying. On the back of that, US dollars held by central banks today is at 26-year low. So the trend is dumping dollars and buying gold.
Yeah, yeah. So just a couple of fun questions for you here. For somebody who knows nothing about it, like, you buy a stock investment or whatever else. It's not a like physical asset. Like you buy gold, you're buying something tangible. Where is the gold? Is there a Fort Knox for Birch?
There is. So it depends on how people buy, right? So some people buy with cash in a bank account. This is money they've already paid tax on. So for those customers, they can opt to have possession. We can ship the metals to them. They're holding on to it. For those who don't want to hold the assets, they want them stored within a depository, they can choose from a number of locations across the US. Brink's facilities, metals would be stored there, fully insured in the customer's name, no counterparty risk, right? If you have money in a bank goes out of business, you're in trouble and you've got to go to the FDIC. Gold in a depository, those sort of risks don't exist. It's not a leveraged asset. So where it's held is really dictated by the customer. When you have an IRA, because it's a tax deferred vehicle, it requires the depository to house them initially. So it just depends.
Right. And in terms of people that are interested and want to invest in gold, I mean, what are the kind of entry levels? You hear about 1 ounce bars, those are kind of easy and quick to turn around if you want to sell it. And then you can get into some bigger, purchases as well. I mean, what does that look like?
With demand increasing as much as it has over the last 4 or 5 years through COVID, through inflation, there's something for everybody. I mean, they have gold bars as small as 1 gram all the way up to 100 ounce or kilo bars or 100 ounce bars. So, and everything in between. They have bars that are tradable. They look like little chocolate bars without chocolate. They're perforated so they can be used for trade, to coins and all other types of things.
Attention, parents. I've got an early Christmas gift for you. We've all been there. 1 minute, your kiddo is bouncing off the walls. An hour later, they're super sick. You're helpless, and it can turn your plans upside down, especially on vacation. After thousands of customer requests, the wellness company has just launched the Kids Medical Emergency Kit. You no longer have to deal with emergency illnesses in panic mode. No parent wants to be in panic mode, believe me. Now, you can have 6 critical medications at your fingertips to treat 20 plus illnesses for issues like strep throat, ear infections, lice, respiratory illnesses, avoiding urgent care and hospitals. The Kids Emergency Kit has been hand-selected by the wellness company's medical board and includes chewable amoxicillin, dissolvable ivermectin, an optional EpiPen, and more. And of course, it comes with a guidebook to assist you. Ordering the kit is very simple. Only parents can order for their children. You fill out an intake form. You'll get a verification call for consent. And then it's just delivered to your door. That's it. Order your Kids Emergency Kit today. Remove panic from your life. And if 1 or 2 of these scripts runs out, you don't have to order a whole new kit. You can just restock what you need. Go to dailycloudhealth.com and grab your Kids Emergency Kit right now. Use code Drew Allen, that's me, to save up to $40 at checkout. And these kits are only available in the USA. Yeah. So, there are a number of factors that obviously influence the value of gold, obviously supply and demand being one of them. Kind of talk a little bit about, firstly, kind of historically, how interest rates affect gold. What's the correlation between interest rates going up or down? How does that affect the price?
Yeah, look, interest rates will have an effect, right? Interest rates affect inflation and they have broad effects across the economy, right? Look at what the Federal Reserve are doing at the moment. They're trying to lower interest rates to stimulate economic activity. The problem is, in doing so, they fuel inflation, right? Inflation is defined as the rising cost of commodities and services over time. Gold and silver being commodities, they grow on the back of inflation, right? So inflation tends to drive gold and silver up. Lowering interest rates tends to fuel inflation. But there's another school of thought as well, right? By raising interest rates aggressively, you see economic contraction and you risk recession. In those climates, precious metals work as well. So it's not just interest rates alone that will drive them. It's more the broader state of the economy. And that's why precious metals today are so important. It's about the nature of our problems, right? If we had economic boom in front of us, there was no economic issues, debt was under control, the world was re-dollarizing, there are other places to be outside of a safe haven commodity, but it's because of the problems that we have, they drive gold and silver up.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to misspeak here. You can correct me, but with gold, because it's a physical ownership of something, in volatile circumstances and collapse, it's like if you bought a house and you own your house outright, you still have something in your possession that's valuable. Gold to me is the same way. You still have something. Yeah. I mean, it's going to be if you had a Great Depression tomorrow, certainly the effect, it would affect everything across the board, but you still have something you can turn around and sell that's valuable. I mean, is that a crazy,
No. Not at all. It's absolutely, listen, it's tangible. It can't disappear on a balance sheet, a power outage can't. So yes, the tangible nature of gold is of course very important, and particularly in a climate when you're seeing bank failures and other things, to have something that can't disappear on a balance sheet, I think adds value. But even outside of that, it's the nature of the problem. So like I said before, inflation drives it up. Why? Because inflation is defined as the rising cost of commodities. So as inflation goes up, it's always pushed the price of gold up. Why do people buy gold when they're worried about the US dollar? It's really simple. Gold and the dollar have a directly inverse relationship. When the dollar goes down, gold goes up. Understanding why, I think, tells us a lot about gold. Gold's buying power, it never changes. Gold is about the most consistent asset in terms of what you can buy. And to give an extreme example, one could go back to biblical times, religious scriptures. You'll see that an ounce of gold bought 400 loaves of bread. Back then, today at $6 and some change per loaf, it buys 400 loaves of bread. So gold's buying power is staying the same. What's changing is the value of the dollar. And essentially, as dollars become weaker, we need more of them to buy the same amount. So my point is, it's more about the nature of the problems we have and how gold responds in these negative climates. It's designed for the issues we have.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty darn stable. And of course, the reason is it's always been there underlying things until we went about, I mean, there's obviously benefits to the way banks work to some extent, with increasing, supply of money and things and circulating that in the environment, but there are downsides too. And, it's just we'll talk about this, I guess, in a second, but it's like, it is such a complex financial global world now. And there's so many factors. Trump, for example, he's come in. I happen to think it's a very good thing for the American economy, but he's inheriting, $36+ trillion in debt. And, even on some of those Birch Gold ads, that I read, I mean, it's true. I mean, he's got 4 years in there, and it is a long way to go towards, solving that problem. And while that's going on, you're dealing with de-dollarization threats from China, of course, as well. I mean, there's just a lot going on. I mean, what do you what's your outlook sort of over the next 4 years? I mean, if you had a magic crystal ball.
Listen, I agree with you. I'm much more positive on the direction of the economy today than I was on November 4th, right? And certainly another 4 years of Biden-esque policy would have crippled the American economy to the point of no return. However, what you said, I think, is very important. Anyone thinks this is going to be like 2016 has another thing coming. What Trump is walking into this time is a whole different ballgame. So I think that the number one priority, and it seems to be, is to address the deficit, right? Because by addressing the deficit, we stop amassing debt. That's all tied into global de-dollarization and everything else. But it's going to be very difficult to do so, right? The Republicans talk a good game on curbing spending. I'm not sure they really have the appetite to, and I'm not sure there's enough money to do it. So to look at it, if we took all discretionary spending out, the budget would just be balanced. Okay. So that means that in order to balance the budget, the Republicans would spend zero. Okay. It's not going to happen. Why? Well, there's two ways out of a deficit problem. One is austerity, right? You tighten the belt buckle, you raise taxes, right? You stop spending. The other way is growth. Okay. We inherited a supply side guy. We elected a supply side guy. We elected a growth guy. Trump is not an austerity guy. So first thing he's going to do is lower taxes. That's initially going to add to the deficit. Okay. The idea, though, he's going to put more money in people's hands. They're going to go out and spend and grow the economy. Tariffs are inflationary, right? They're going to drive the price of goods and services up shorter term. We're going to pay more. Longer term, they're going to incentivize domestic manufacturing. That's how we grew the economy in the first place. That's how we became a global leader. But what people have to realize is what the gamble is. Ultimately, we're gambling because in order to be a supply side guy, I missed an important part. You have to lower taxes and you have to spend, right? You need to spend and stimulate. However, the hope is, and this is where I'm confident, Trump will spend more productively than the Democrats. Spending in on itself is not bad. Wasteful spending is bad. Productive spending can be good. So the gamble that people have to understand is that GDP growth will start to outpace debt growth. And that's when we'll fix the issue. But it's an uphill battle. Since the 70s, debt growth has averaged 8.5% a year, GDP growth around 3%. So this idea that Trump will stop running deficits in 4 years is crazy. He'd have to triple US GDP to do it, which is nonsensical. So what I'm hoping is he sows the seeds, he lays the groundwork. We'll have some tough times to get through, but longer term, he creates a more vibrant economy. That's the gamble. But anyone that thinks that day one problems are gone, I think they've got another thing coming.
Yeah, I've really railed on the issue for a while because I think people thought, we were looking for a way out of this, and people were focused rightfully on November, the presidential election, but that's like the first step. The war is just starting, in many ways, and this is going to have to take place over subsequent administrations. I don't know what the exact number is, but over the last 10 years, at least we doubled our debt, and probably more. And it's not, you're not going to be able to do the same thing in 4 or 8 years. It's going to take a long drawn out approach to getting this down, and consistency and dedication to the policy. If a Democrat's elected next time, we're screwed back in the right back in the place.
That's such a smart point you made. That's part of the other problem. So yes, everything you said is absolutely correct. Here's the problem: we've got a world de-dollarizing at the same time, right? So this is where stopping running deficits becomes very important, because yes, Trump can sow the seeds and lay the groundwork, but everyone has to understand that's a longer term plan. As we continue to run deficits, if the world continues to say, hey, this is a bad bet, US debt, they continue to dump the dollar, then there's no getting out of it. So there's this gamble. But here's the really encouraging thing. For 4 years, all we had was denial, right? The economy's great, GDP's great, there's no inflation. Don't believe your lying eyes, right? So the messaging was just way off. Listen to this administration. The BRICS are a problem. We're coming after you. Elon Musk is saying, look, there is going to be tough times. We are going to go through hardship. That's the only way you deal with a debt problem. Finally, at least they're telling us the truth. But the one point, and I've gone off on tangents, but the one point you said is 4 years. We could have a Democrat in 4 years, right? And you're correct. And this is the one weakness we have when it comes to de-dollarization. Listen, Trump is a stronger figure than Biden, right? And he's going to get respect on the global scale, but he's limited by one more term, by 4 years. Russia, China. It was a lot of pain to come off a dollar-based system, right? Russia's currency crashed initially. They had to create new trade partnerships with India and China. There was a lot of pain. Now their economy's thriving. Are they going to get off that system, come back on a dollar system because Trump says so, to then have to, de-dollarize again in 4 years? My concern is the beacon's been lit and the train's left the station. I think I put two analogies together there, but you get the point.
Bravo, I would say. Yeah. And Canada now is taking a very hostile approach to the United States of America. The Chinese are firmly ensconced in the Canadian government. That's no secret. So there are a lot of forces moving. Trudeau. It's funny, he went down to the Mar-a-Lago to kiss Trump's ring, and he basically bowed down at Trump's feet and said, "Please, Mr. President-elect, do not do these tariffs because it will destroy the Canadian economy." So he goes in there and acknowledges that he can't win a trade war with us. But now he's back in there with his communist buddies, and they're trying to they're saying we're an enemy. So my point is, I wouldn't put it past Canada or other people who are run by these lunatics, frankly, from just punishing themselves in order to prevent Trump from having success. Because obviously his success, the American people need to see his policies enacted. And as soon as those policies are enacted and they actually experience the benefits of those policies in their own lives, then you can look at the next 4 years and say the Democrats might be bye-bye in the rear view mirror forever, but they're going to do everything they can to slow down and sabotage and prevent economic growth in this country. So, that's going to be problematic.
It's going to be problematic. And look, tariffs in themselves can be problematic, right? They're designed to address a trade deficit. The US has a massive trade deficit. We should be looking at it, but they lead to things like, number one, retaliatory tariffs, right? Listen, the US still exports a lot, car, aviation part, machine equipment. Those industries would suffer. And the other thing they do is they lead to retaliatory behavior, right? It was the Ontario Premier, Doug so-and-so yesterday, that threatened to cut off energy to the United States. So we're going to see this. And look, people have to realize something. Trump's policies are disruptive by design, right? They're deliberately intended to disrupt. And we have to understand, when the status quo is broken, you have to change it. I saw a quote from Henry Kissinger the other day that I thought was brilliant. He said, "I think Trump may be one of those figures in history who appears from time to time to mark the end of an era and to force it to give up its old pretenses." And there's something in that. This 80-year post-war era of globalism, it appears to be over. And I think Trump is ushering in a new age. So, the OECD called it protectionism. It could be that. And the OECD are very concerned about the state of the global economy. But I think it's time that we start to look at our own economy. We need to fix the problems at home if we want to be an effective world leader. But right now, we are too encumbered. So I think it's a case of focusing on the issues at home. Trump's policies will rattle the world. It's going to be interesting, and we'll see how it shapes out. But like I said, what choice did we have, right? Sticking with the status quo, it was broken. This is our only opportunity to shake things up, but we've got to look at curbing the spending immediately. Doge interests me, right? They're not going to be able to cut $2 trillion, right? They could fire every federal employee, which they can't. It would be like 300 billion. So it's interesting. There's a lot of interesting stuff happening. The question is, are the problems too big to get over? And time will tell.
Yeah. I mean, a philosophical shift has to happen. That to me is the main purpose of Doge and these other people, to convince American people that there is waste in bureaucracy, that government is a necessary evil, not a necessary good, and that the more power, we fund the government. They don't create anything. So naturally, we are at war with the government. They are not a natural fit for the American citizenry. We need it for self-defense and other measures. But at the end of the day, the bigger the government is, the less freedom and money you have at your disposal to spend. So that's what we have to read. Before I continue, most people know that staying hydrated is essential to nearly every bodily function. But 75% of Americans, 75%, that's crazy, still do not consume enough fluid daily. And I'm actually one of them. As we age, natural bodily changes make staying hydrated even harder, especially without artificial additives or excess sugars. That is where Native Path comes in with extra help. Native Path's Hydrate is not just another drink mix. It's a thoughtfully designed formula packed with BCAAs and all 9 essential amino acids to help with muscle recovery and overall vitality. Plus, it's completely sugar-free and 100% natural. With their Native Hydrate product, you can fuel your body with essential electrolytes. And by the way, I just want to say, I have this. I am drinking it. And the tangerine in particular is my favorite. And it is the best tasting electrolyte solution that I've had. And I've tried quite a few. So, you know, I can actually tell you. But anyway, unlike other hydration drink mixes that are designed for marathon runners and those types of people, and they contain, 1,000 milligrams of sodium, Native Hydrate contains just 230 milligrams of sodium for optimal daily hydration. It doesn't have any artificial flavors or sugars or dyes. It's only 5 calories per serving. Right now, you can get up to 44% off just for being a listener to this show, The Drew Allen Show. Every order comes with a 365-day money-back guarantee, 2 free gifts, plus free shipping. You visit nativehydrate.com/dailyclout to see what Native Hydrate could do for your health. Again, the site name, it's nativehydrate.com/dailyclout. And I am a fan. Force.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, again, it's another smart point because, listen, all governments around the world, they spend wastefully, all of them, right? But highlighting it, sort of putting it in a public forum like Twitter, I think that's going to be very interesting. And I think it's going to start to generate public support, public interest. Like I said, I'm really interested by this. It's going to be very interesting to see how it shapes out. Disruption can be beneficial or detrimental, and it's going to be one of them. But we're going to have to wait and see how it shapes out. But like I said, the encouraging thing for me is the messaging from the administration is right. They recognize the problem. I mean, Biden referred to global de-dollarization as a natural instinct for the BRICS to diversify. I mean, if that's how you're viewing the biggest economic challenge to our nation in 100 years, bonkers. So at least the messaging's right and the priorities are right. The question is it too big an uphill battle to maintain our position? And only time will tell. But the key, and everyone needs to understand, we've got to stop running deficits. We've got to be fiscally responsible. Otherwise, the house of cards will come crashing down as people get fed up of holding our debt.
Yeah, and it's gonna require the same American citizenry that rose up to elect Trump to stay activated and engaged and on message. We've got to be activists every single day and stay on top of it. And you got to look out for your family and things like that at the same time. Got to walk and chew bubble gum, and part of that's financial security. And that was one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you about gold too, because people need to understand that it's volatile. They need to have an understanding about what they face, and they have a realistic perspective. Nobody can sit here and read the tea leaves and predict everything, but we do know. You made an amazing point, because we're living through one of the most important moments in mankind's history. Actually, in my opinion, it will prove to be in the end. That's how big this shakeup is in the world. We're having a course correction in human history right now, and so there's uncertainty with that. But yeah, I mean, Phillip, any closing words about I'll give you the last word here.
Yeah, look, I think, we've talked a lot about the problems, right? Global de-dollarization. Listen, this is the first time ever in our lives, or even in our parents' lives almost, that the US dollar has been under a credible threat. It has been the king for our lifetimes. That position is changing slowly, right? we're talking about inflation. We're talking about a change in the way that we've been doing things. And I think not having a prudent currency hedge, inflation hedge in place, I think is a mistake. Now, we don't put all of our eggs in any one basket ever, right? But it's all about hedging and making sure you have a measure of insurance. I tell people all the time, you've got health insurance, you've got car insurance, you've got home insurance. Gold is insurance for your portfolio. Gold is the thing that goes up when the other stuff comes down, and we all need that. So for us, the most important thing is educated customers, right? That makes our job easier. It makes decision making easier for the customer. It makes better decisions. So the big thing for us is information. We've put together a very good guide on investing in gold through a Trump administration, highlighting a lot of the issues to be focusing on. So I'd recommend your viewers reach out to us and get that information. Start reading. Where they go from there is up to them. Obviously, if they did want to learn more, they'll have access to a lot of people like myself that are there to talk through, answer questions, etc. But start with the information. That's the most important part.
Yeah, and it's super easy. I mean, you just text Daily Clout to 989898. That's how easy it is,
Yeah.
and they'll be in touch with the information. So, Phillip, you know, I'll have to have you back on my show again just to talk economics and whatnot as things progress here, because things are going to change quickly January 20th when he's inaugurated, and you know, I would love to use you as a resource to keep everybody informed, because you're a bright mind, my friend.
Well, you're very kind. It's been a lot of fun. It's been my pleasure. So I'll come back whenever you ask.
Phillip Patrick, everyone, precious metal specialist. Thanks.
Thanks, Drew.